Next up, we have a presentation on special education and student services. You can control your own destiny. Yeah.
Okay, good evening. Thank you, President Fleischer, Dr. Freeze, members of the board, for allowing me to present our program reviews for special education and student services. So the purpose of a program review is for quality assurance to ensure that the program is meeting its stated objectives and delivering high-quality education. I'm pleased to report throughout the survey that the majority of our respondents said agreed or strongly agreed to most of the objectives that we placed. For continuous improvement, we are looking to identify areas for enhancement and make necessary changes to improve student learning outcomes. This was facilitated through our focus groups and our open-ended questions in the survey. For accountability, we are looking to demonstrate to stakeholders that the program is effective and aligned with institutional goals. This will be demonstrated through our special ed state plan and our strategic plan, which is coming up next month. The first section I'd like to review is our staff survey results. So for our staff survey, we had all of the staff, and we offered two separate surveys. One was the special education survey, which related to IEP students. The second was the student services survey, which included 504, gifted, ESL, counseling, and related services. Because we had the strategic plan, the elementary program review, and MTSS program review, we decided to give a little space between surveys, and we distributed them on December 6, 2024, and closed on January 10th, 2025. So here is a pie chart with our percent of respondents. As you can see, we got a nice representative from each of our staff employee groups. There were two slivers of the pie that were not listed there, which was related service providers at 4.6% and Encore or specials teachers at 1.5%. So we had 130 staff members complete the survey. And as you can see on this slide, the staff survey breakdown, we had a nice representative from each building. And please note that some of our staff members work in multiple buildings, so they may have been checked twice. So when we look at the overall special education staff responses in strength areas, something that we are very proud of and feel that we do a really nice job at is our dedicated and highly qualified staff, our inclusion and least restrictive environment for students, and our ABA life skills and secondary emotional support programs. We also identified the top 3 growth areas, which were emotional support at the elementary level, hiring, retaining, and training our support staff, and consistency and communication across schools and special education services. When you have 10 buildings, we're looking to make sure there's continuity and consistency between the programs that we are offering. We then asked our staff for specific training needs, and we asked them for a top 3. This is for special education. They indicated crisis management and de-escalation strategies, executive functioning and emotional support, and IEP goal writing and implementation. And one of the responses I thought was kind of cute is they wanted to know the Dr. Schumann way of IEP writing. And so we will be going more into that, but it will definitely be what's required by the state. For special education staff results, I'm not going to read some of these slides because there's a lot of text, but I wanted you to have an idea on each area of special education and IEP services. This was the survey topic on the left, and these were the opportunity areas on the right. So we took all of the open-ended questions and text responses, we summarized them, and we asked them to write as opportunity areas instead of just comments. So when we look at, training goals for our special ed plan, when we look at our LEBO Summit or our parent, LEBO University, we now have a good repertoire of topics to look at when what should we present. And what you will find throughout these program reviews is that they are very much aligned with the strategic plan responses. some of the Lebo University responses and elementary and MTSS programs. So I'm not going to read through those, but I do want them to be available for you to review. So you can see on the left, we asked about our inclusionary practices, PDs, school staffing, evidence-based practices, educational programming, instruction, data-driven decision-making, communication, and crisis prevention and intervention.
And I think, too, just to add, when you look through these opportunities, a lot of them are ones that Dr. Schumann and her team have identified. So it was really, I thought it was very good to see alignment with the work that she has started and the work that people agree that we should be moving in that direction.
Absolutely.
And there's a lot of great opportunities.
Yeah, I like how specific some of them are too.
For our student services.
I'm sorry, Dr. Schumann,
Okay.
real quick before you move on. There was great work so far. Some of the things in here that really I agree with wholeheartedly. Consistency across all of our buildings on the campus. High quality curricular resources for all learners. It's great. Culture. I know with some of the buildings, I know Mellon Middle in particular, have done a nice job historically building a culture of inclusion, not just in the classrooms and with the professional, but, building wide. I certainly hope that as we roll out an initiative to build consistency across all of the buildings, that's part of it as well.
Sure. Yeah.
Thank you.
So we would then switch gears a little bit to our student services staff survey. And again, you can see that this survey received 93 staff responses. Again, a nice range of people that responded in terms of our staff groupings. Related service providers were indicated there at 5.4% and Encore teachers at 3.2%. Once again, we had a representative from different buildings. That was nice to see. I think I may have been the one central office. And our staff responses for student services. So our indicated strength areas are strong related services. This would include our blind, visually impaired, our hearing impaired, our speech, our occupational and physical therapy, counseling, SAP, and mental health supports, which have been a work in progress the last few years, and then staff collaboration and a student-centered approach. For growth areas, again, this is something we've already identified, is English as a second language programming. 504 plans, not in terms of, writing them, but making sure they are consistent, clear, they're very clear and implemented across all teachers, and then gifted and tiered support services. When we asked our staff about training needs for student services, it was mostly, number one, how to support our ESL or English language learner students in both academic and social settings. 504 plans, process implementation, and how they are different from IEPs. Our mental health, social work, and crisis intervention. So they want to know more about what resources are available to students and how to help students that are in the classroom with any mental health concerns. Once again, we have kind of a breakdown by section and opportunity areas. We plan to use each of these opportunities in our training plans, in our strategic plan, and in our special education plan, which again is coming up next month. The good news is we have several years to implement these things, but as Dr. Freese stated, these are all items that the administration is in alignment with in terms of parent and staff feedback. And if you have any questions, happy to answer. Okay.
I have a quick question. For the responses, both for special ed and student services, is that, like, what percent, like, that's not 100%, right?
In terms of how many people indicated those items?
In terms of how many people submitted the surveys.
No, definitely not 100%. As you can see from our last demographics presentation, I believe we had about 800 IEP students. And the result, I think, that we have coming up from families was about 130.
Okay.
Now, some of the families may have children with IEPs, gifted, 504. So they may have indicated 2 different programs, but we definitely did not get 100% participation.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we'll move on to our family survey results. For this section, once again, we had a survey offered with a Likert scale, meaning, disagree, agree, but we also broke it down into these different sections. And what we did was we asked parents, do you have a child, with an IEP in the special education program? If they said yes, they were prompted to answer the next questions. If they said no, we skipped to the next question, and we tried to hit whatever service that their child had at our school. So this survey was distributed at the same time, closed in January. And as you can see, we had 128 total responses from parent guardians, and there is the breakdown of whether they had an IEP student, 504 child, JIEP, ESL, or their child had related services. Once again, I'm happy to see that we had some people from each building respond. So for our family survey responses, our indicated strength areas aligned with the staff comments, which are dedicated and skilled staff, comprehensive student support services, and a strong school-based collaboration. For growth areas, they were looking for professional development and training for staff, consistency, communication, and continuity of services, and more inclusive, diverse, and responsive programming. For family training needs, they are looking for neurodiversity and disability awareness in educational settings, effective communication and collaboration with school staff, and supporting mental health, socialization, and anxiety in students. So those would be potential parent workshops in the next several months. With the family survey, we again took each topic area and outlined opportunity areas. So Section 504 service agreements, special education, gifted education, and then we have related services and counseling services.
And again, to note, we saw a lot of similarities between the administration, our staff, and the family results.
This may be more of I know we're going to see the draft plan. Is the plan going to be a separate plan from the strategic plan, or will it just be incorporated?
Because in May, we're going to have a special education plan that's due, and that will include training. But the strategic plan is obviously going to have goals that were aligned to special ed and student services.
Excellent.
And I think it's important to note our plan, our strategic plan will be far more detailed than the state plan. The state's requirements are limited and we need to go a little bit deeper. So that's why we've chosen to do the state plan, which is a requirement, but then also to provide more context to the work that we're doing.
State plan is more compliance-based. Okay, so then we offered an additional opportunity for feedback in the terms of focus groups, which were similar to what we offered at the strategic plan, just on a much smaller scale. For special education, we offered 4 focus group sessions. We had 62 participants. Again, we took the summary of the feedback given from the families, which was, number 1, to enhance parent education and empowerment in the IEP process, to improve IEP implementation, consistency, and communication, and to strengthen inclusive culture and address gaps in curriculum and support services. These are the questions that we asked our families in the focus group. And once again, we highlighted opportunities for the development of our plan moving forward. For the Student Services Focus Group, we had 2 sessions. We had 37 participants. The number one overall response was the need for greater equity and transparency in terms of what we have to offer and how our services are provided to students, improved communication and support, and stronger programming and staff training. For Student Services, we asked by support type, and these were the opportunities that were provided by the families. We also asked a question at the end about our website. I want to say thank you to Mrs. Smith for helping me make this presentation look a little more visually appealing. We are planning to do a website overhaul for special ed and student services as that kind of goes along with the feedback that we received for better communication and transparency. We found it really hard to find different items on our page, and it's just time for an update and a refresh, so that will be part of our plan moving forward. I think one of the, I did the strategic plan focus groups and also my own, and one of the most frustrating things was that we were facilitating and not engaging. So a lot of the items that were being mentioned are things that we already do and maybe just need to be communicated better to families. And we're looking forward to doing that, via the website or different methods, so. So we have some room for questions, but the next steps are that we will be providing recommendations next month, and the special ed state report will cover years 2025 to 2028. The strategic plan is 2025 to 2031. Before I close, I just want to say thank you to Dr. Fries, Dr. Davis, and Dr. Scholo for modeling this process. And also wanted to note that I did refer to the last program review that was completed in 2022. It was very well done, and I looked at the recommendations and conclusions, and I'm happy to report that those items were carried out, by the time that we started to work on this one. So
Great.
there is a little bit of closure for that cycle.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Great work, a lot of stuff, a lot of ground covered. And I look forward to the recommendations next month to see how you're going to take on these tasks. But good work, thank
I
you.
want to say we had about 100 pages of text.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, quick review, you've hit a lot of my sort of high point areas of interest and concern, so thank you.
Second.
Yeah, and I think, just seeing such alignment in the feedback we're receiving from staff and from families across all of these multiple points over the past couple of years that we've had the opportunity, I think there's a lot of opportunity for enhancing and improving the program, but it's also exciting because it feels like our community and our constituent groups are giving us a roadmap, and we have the right people in place to actually follow through on that. So I'm also looking forward to seeing the recommendations that come out of this.
And Dr. Fries, this presentation, of course, will be available on board docs. So for any of the,
Yes.
families that may have been watching the presentation
It's there.
at home or later, yeah, there's a lot of content in here that
That's why we
was
included all the bullet points.
right that was not read aloud tonight.
Yeah.
So the big periods of silence while everybody watched us read, there's a lot of really great content in there
Yes,
that I
thank you for
encourage
not
folks to go read.
reading all 32 slides out loud.
I think we went back and forth about how detailed, and it was important to Dr. Schumann to include as much detail as possible so that people could see the full perspective of what was shared with us.
These departments are growing, and there's a lot of interest in what we're going to be doing next. So I think it's important to share what feedback we received.
Yeah. I think the detail was great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.